Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of the Founders Roadmap. Today we're going to be talking about the impact of AI on technology teams, or the real impact of AI on technology teams. I think there's
Yes.
definitely been a lot of hype in this space, and we kind of want to break that down and understand the real applications of the tech today. This quote in particular definitely jumps out. It's not the AI that will replace you, but someone using AI. Dan, how do you feel about this quote?
Bro, the amount of times I've seen this quote on Instagram, Twitter, or in YouTube videos, it's becoming a little bit of a meme. I think yes, AI is important, particularly moving into this year, and yes, it's going to have a big impact, but a lot of businesses are so far from actually using this, and a lot of people who are outside of technology and outside this little hype circle aren't really that worried or engaged with it. So when we talk about AI, you can classify it into three parts.
Regression, which is understanding historical data and forecasting and understanding the trends. Then we've got classification, which is exactly that, classifying data, grouping data. And then we've got generative AI, which is kind of what we're honing on today and is what's taken up a lot of space in the media over the past 12 months.
Emerging themes 2024. For me, I think, as we've touched on, co-pilots are the big thing that many businesses and organizations want to adopt. So whether that's a co-pilot that does as a writing assistant, or in particular for technology, mostly around software development, so coding. We're going to see a big push around wearables, I suspect. I think it's still kind of gimmicky. I mean, I think the Ray-Bans look kind of cool.
There's a lot of hype around Johnny Ive and Sam Altman going at it on a new device this year, so maybe we'll see something cool.
Then there's the obvious legal frameworks. So we're already seeing the EU Act, which is putting a lot more restrictions on the type of data that you can use to train and what you can store and capture about people. I still think AI is going to move quicker than regulation. Software always outpaces law, but
True.
There's definitely going to be some stuff we see there. And I think using low code, no code tools, we're going to see just a lot more people do the side hustle type thing, I suspect, in 2024. So for me, obvious focus on productivity at a business level, as we've touched on. Code and writing co-pilots are going to become a lot more mainstream. We're going to see the rollout of Microsoft 365. I mean, Microsoft is everywhere in all enterprises. Customer feedback tools, something that Squad is heavily focused on. So being able to group and synthesize customer feedback into key themes and insights. It's going to be a massive one. Again, it saves product managers like myself heaps of time. You've got knowledge bases. A lot of people are attempting to turn all of their really messy documentation into a nice queryable knowledge base using ChatGPT-like interfaces. Product analytics, again, to help C-suite executives and other people who may not have SQL-like abilities to just use natural language to query and get their results. And then the obvious one, which has a little bit of danger that we can touch on with custom service agents.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's basically in the word here. Hard skills, basically something that's easy to quantify. This is super applicable to generative AI because there's logic baked into the model. Makes it really easy for the models to do things like computer programming or translating a foreign language versus soft skills, which are all around communication, things that are hard to quantify or not very tangible, managing people, things that are done in person as well. So there's going to be a shift. There's going to be these tools to help with these hard skills, and then a shift to leveraging soft skills or focusing on strategic type stuff.
Yeah, talking more with a team, making more high level decisions, because AI is going to do your grunt work for you, right? Like we touched on, you're going to have co-pilots writing the code for you. You're going to have co-pilots or assistants that help you get your insights, group them for you. And then moving on. So we touched on it a little bit before, but the impact that's had on our team. So what has AI had influenced on us?
I think the big thing for me personally, and through the early phases of Squad, was research. And this kind of speaks to the retrieval trend we spoke to earlier. It's really it's really, really good at aggregating lots of information or pointing you to information that would be historically really difficult to find through Google's 10 blue links. This points to allows you to find data a lot quicker. Even if it's not accurate, you can still go and get the accurate sources based off of what it retrieves. So that's been just huge use case and definitely impacted our workflow. I think words in general, writing any words, copywriting, marketing takes up a lot of time. It's really hard to articulate what you mean, and AI is really good at helping you with that. It might not have the perfect end output, but it's definitely really good at sparking thoughts or ways to phrase things and getting the process moving. So I guess
Yeah.
it overcomes writer's block, right? Like that's a big use case.
Well, it stops, like, particularly when you're working on, like in our case with Squad, which we're working on the side, it stops a lot of barriers of the grunt work. So computer research is a lot faster, coming up the landing page copy way quicker. We can focus on all the fun things, keep the energy high, because a lot of the mundane stuff we can just use AI to quickly throw together or bounce ideas. So I think it's been really good productivity hack for us as well. It's just the
Yeah.
R&D stuff, which has
How
been
about the
awesome.
GPTs?
The GPT's been pretty cool as well. So yeah, we built GPTs to kind of replicate parts of the app that we're building, and also use GPTs to act as like a pretend VC, so to help me like work out when I'm pitching, as well as like we've had someone to help write our tweets, copywriters. And yeah, GPTs for each little function has been pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
I've enjoyed using AI for that a lot. Although we've just talked about all the really good things, drivers and barriers, right? So we know businesses are super excited about this. Like the CFOs, like, oh my God, I can save heaps of money, be twice as productive, really want to use AI. But as we mentioned, a lot of barriers, right? So data quality is a big issue. I think I read somewhere if you're training your own LLM, if you train it on textbook quality data, you can have 1,000x improvement in the size of your LLM and the number of parameters you can use. That's massive, right? So data quality is hugely important, but many organizations have a lot of data issues. The reason why they want to use AI is they think they can just throw it around their data and then suddenly it's all going to be solved. Not really a reality. So there's still a lot of barriers with the legacy platforms that exist today. Also, a lot of problems with like ethics and things as well. So as we've touched on, we'll touch on in a second when we look at some examples. AI can be a little bit can easily go astray, and so you've got to make sure you've got a really good governance process in place, or it can negatively impact on your brand perception. And then there's also like some concerns from businesses around what's happening with like the legal issues around OpenAI and New York Times suing them, and many others. But we've covered a little bit of what I would say is actually happening with AI and what we think is going to happen this year. But what if we put on our blue sky? If we imagine we're like a Twitter influencer, bit of a tech bro, like what's the future evolution of product management going to look like? This is our views of it, right? So we think, particularly within the world of product management, everything's going to be agent based, right? So what do we mean by agent based, Hamish? Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, within product development, you can kind of break down the functions, and I think each function will get a sort of co-pilot or an agent to work alongside, and then
Yeah.
these agents will work together. So you can kind of see in this diagram here, like if you had a product co-pilot, they're basically being the layer between your data, your business, and then the hard skill functions. Then you would have designer co-pilots, engineer co-pilots, data co-pilots, etc. Because each agent is outputting something in a very tangible, understandable way for other co-pilots, you can really easily think through how these things would communicate and work together to formulate something a bit more general. Yeah, I just think it's really exciting, like thinking through what this looks like, almost like how microservices evolved, this more modular approach to developing software. It really feels like that's going to happen on a bit more of a grand scale, and more of at like a function level.
I agree, and even like the way you think about building a squad, like as a product leader or a business leader, and you've got to come and build a
Yeah,
technology team. Like the way you think about it is like eventually you're going to think, how many people do I need? What kind of skills do they need? And then what co-pilots am I going to use? There's going to be like there's going to be many different designer co-pilots, engineer co-pilots. It's going to be a mix and match to find the best one for the use case you have, which is pretty cool and a little bit scary, but pretty cool. So if we think about the role of product management, something that's close to my heart as a fellow product manager, I think like there's going to be a huge impact of AI on product managers. So there's two ways you can think about it. One is as a tool, it's going to help you deliver and ship products faster because you're going to get your insights delivered to you more quickly. It's going to take away a lot of the admin. As a product manager, you don't have to sit there writing requirements. Like backlog prioritization and planning is going to be largely automated. Tools like Squad obviously help with this. But then the second part is also, as a product manager, you need to be thinking about the capability that can be built into your actual product using AI. So you need to recognize the value that certain AI applications could bring to your customers and how you're going to use that. So there's that strategic element that comes in as well. How do you personalize from day one, because you can use AI to be a lot faster at that kind of stuff? And basically, I think the role of product management is going to become a lot more prominent, because there's going to be a lot less need for engineering resource with the fact that you have these co-pilots, and there's going to be a lot more people having to make business decisions. So more focused on the outcomes you're delivering, not so much on the amount of features you're shipping. So I think it's going to be a really cool time for product.
Just going back to like the hard skills versus soft skills thing, product managers are typically someone that require more soft skills, being this like intermediary layer. And I think that'll just like create a heightened need for them, and more of a need for the tools that deliver on the hard skills for them. So
definitely. And then you've got the ultimate AI engineer. There is like an amazing amount of tools coming out now. It's quite intimidating. I guess like the AI engineer is going to be a little bit like, it will be interesting to see what happens with DevOps and developers with the use of AI, because we previously had one person doing it all. Then we had this like separate functions, and then DevOps was the idea of like a developer doing the infrastructure and writing the code. It's going to be very interesting to see like AI ops, like what does this mean with all these co-pilots? How many engineers do you have on a team? Do you still have like QA?
Yeah,
it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with all that. And I mean,
I think similar to like, I think with the hard skills, it's like it'll automate the 90%, but then the 10% still needs to have some sort of human oversight, and that creates a lot of work. I think like when you see things like, I was just reading some of these taglines, the dawn of software development, this changes everything. Like it's like going back to that hypey stuff we spoke about earlier. There's 100% going to be a need for engineers, right? Like you can't just trust everything this thing is going to output. Exactly.
And then also design. I'm not going to even talk to this. This is your domain. So what's happening with design?
Design. I mean, it's just like everywhere else. It feels like AI is everywhere. There's a million ones with stars popping up in just about every tool I use. I do think that a lot of it is actually not very usable in industry. It's really like gimmicky, and I think it's because a lot of like design is in the refining, or like being quite of a perfectionist with the output, and a lot of the stuff just really is so far from that. I do think there's a really strong use case for using it alongside design systems and this idea of generative UI, which is being used in a controlled environment. So say like Google Gemini, when they used material design to generate UI on the fly based on a user's needs. I think that was a really cool example. Or Vercel doing it with Tailwind CSS with their V0 concept. So yeah, I think in a controlled format, it definitely works really well. So it's abstracting the design process versus like doing the design 0 to 1 for you. I think it's probably the same with engineering, where there'll be like this 90% automation, but the 10% that's usable will still require some sort of design input.
That's the thing. Like, it's a weird in industry at the moment. All the design hype tools is all like, you just write a prompt and suddenly your design is going to be done and it's going to be sick. It's like, what? It's just, I do think I'm struggling to see how they can be used in practice at the moment, personally.
Yeah, there's more. I guess thinking a bit more generally, or like broader, is this dependence, and you kind of spoke about the dependence on product managers because of like the shift from hard skills to soft skills. I think it's the same within design potentially, and a shift towards understanding user psychology, like what are people wanting, and getting back to the roots of user experience versus like all this effort that's been put into the visual design or the refinement of the UI, which might go away. I think it's slowly happening already with like more thorough design systems, but this will definitely speed up that process.
And talk to me about the no-code movement in AI in particular, because you use this great imagery to refer.
This is the perfect storm. I think, I mean, the no-code movement has been a trend that's been happening for a while. Obviously, it's getting better and better. It's very modular, and it just plays really nicely with something like AI. Like for a non-programmer or someone that doesn't know how to code, using these no-code tools and then being able to use AI within these individual modules to really refine and generate what they mean within that kind of like controlled or structured interface, I think it's going to be awesome. Like it just really, I see a million use cases.
100%. I mean, you can see the main companies, right? So you see Webflow, you see Framer for your landing pages. They're incorporating AI. Then you've got Bubble, which is really good for building no-code applications, and then Flutterflow as well. And then if we look at a few use cases as well, so the not so good of AI, we talked about how there's some bad examples of AI as well. If we look at what happened with Lead AI, so Generative AI, they used it to write their sports articles. They actually had to cut it in August because it started writing gobbledygook. Basically, it was really not writing proper content. Then you had Amazon, although they didn't actually use this in their recruitment process, when they experimented with an AI recruitment tool, they actually only suggested men in the application process. So again, when we think about governance frameworks, ethics, this kind of thing, like it's not a good look for a company if that's all they're doing. And then similar to not just on gender, but from an age perspective, we had iTutor Group. Their recruiting AI application was rejecting anyone over the age of 60. Really not a good look, right, for your business. So there are a lot of reasons why you can't just plug AI in and hope for the best. There's a lot of considerations, which is why I think things aren't going to move as quickly as people have been making out. The good news is, though, as we've talked about, GitHub Copilot, right? So I think it's seen 55% more improvement in productivity. You're way quicker, right? So even in this little graphic we've got here, the people who used it versus those who didn't, they were almost an hour, 20 minutes faster than people who didn't use Copilot to build. Like that's huge. When you think of that in terms of real money, like that's massive over the course of a week. And then you've also got Lathanza, who's been using AI to help their customer service agents work out what the next best action is for their customers. So that's been really, really cool use of AI where they've helped optimize the rotation of aircraft as well as the flight attendants' next best action to serve customers. So there are some really cool use cases with AI that's happening today and many more, I suspect.
I'm glad you knew how to pronounce that because I definitely didn't. So
I don't know if I got it right, but sure.
It's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. We'll run with it. Let's run with it.
All right, sweet, fine, done. And then I guess lastly, upskill, right? So we've talked about there's the mean people that are scaring you, saying if you don't use AI, someone else who will have it. Like I don't have that personal view, but I do think it is important to experiment with these tools and find like what's useful to you. I think eventually when businesses work out the governance process, they work out how they can safely deploy these things into their organizations, people are going to need to know how to use them. And so Google has a really awesome collection of courses that you can do. And I Hamish, you've collected a lot of resources here. So
yeah, I think like just to speak to what you were saying, Dan, the main way of learning for me anyway is just to actually use the tools and embed them into like my daily tasks. These tools are around to stay, that's for sure. So getting proficient in them is definitely not going to hurt, and it'll probably set you up for success in the future. And there's just a lot of resources at the moment that are free. I imagine people might start moving these behind paywalls as the skill becomes more in demand. So getting on top of these, like Google Cloud offers a whole suite of differing, very applicable skills that you can learn for free. And there's a bunch of others. So yeah, I think just using the tools, maybe doing some few courses, getting really knowledgeable in the space is going to be really important and definitely help for any job seekers in the future.
But that's all we have for today. So I guess to recap, like there's a lot of hype about AI, but the reality is there's still a heap of work to do around governance, data quality, businesses really understanding how best they can utilize it. So I think this year is going to be all about implementation. So what I mean by that is like people experimenting with it in their organization. I think there's some really cool opportunities with it, but I would say don't worry about it as much. Like I wouldn't be freaking out and hyperventilating about AI so much. I'd say it's actually going to benefit us a lot. I don't think it's going to come for our jobs anytime soon. Anything else you want to finish on there, Hamish?
Yeah. Just, I do feel like we've landed on a pretty cool use case with Squad. So if you are interested, definitely join the waitlist. We're looking at product development and product management and how you can kind of use AI to synthesize a lot of customer feedback and align business and user perspectives to kind of hopefully make good products. So join the waitlist, check us out. Links in the bio.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later.